The morning sun was just starting to rise when Elena Martinez woke up her son Marcus. It was Saturday, which meant she had to go to work at the big mansion on the hill. Most Saturdays, Marcus stayed home alone, but today was different. The babysitter had called in sick, and Elena had no choice but to bring her 12-year-old son with her to work. Marcus rubbed his eyes and got dressed quickly. He put on his cleanest jeans and a blue shirt that was getting a bit small for him. His shoes were old and the soles were wearing thin, but they were comfortable. He looked at himself in the small mirror in their tiny apartment and ran his fingers through his dark hair. Elena was already in the kitchen, packing sandwiches for their lunch. Their apartment was small, just 2 rooms, but it was clean and filled with love. Pictures of Marcus from different school years hung on the walls. There was a small table where they ate their meals together every night. The furniture was old and some of it was broken, but Elena always kept everything neat and tidy. "Are you ready, mijo?" Elena asked, using the Spanish word for son that she always used. Her voice was soft and kind. She looked tired, as she always did these days. Working 3 cleaning jobs was hard on her body, but she never complained. Not in front of Marcus anyway. Marcus nodded and grabbed his backpack. Inside, he had put a library book about famous musicians and a notebook where he sometimes drew pictures. He was not sure what he would do all day while his mother worked, but at least he would not be alone at home. They took 2 buses to get to the Worthington mansion. The ride took almost an hour. Marcus pressed his face against the window and watched as their neighborhood changed. The small apartments and corner stores slowly disappeared. Trees became bigger and more beautiful. The houses grew larger and larger until they were not really houses anymore, but huge buildings that looked like castles. The Worthington mansion was the biggest one on the hill. It had tall white columns in front and a circular driveway with a fountain in the middle. The fountain had a statue of an angel pouring water from a jug. The grass was so green it almost did not look real. Flowers of every color lined the walkway leading to the front door. Marcus felt very small as they walked up to the servants' entrance at the back of the house. Elena used her key to open the door and they stepped into a hallway that led to the kitchen. Even the back hallway was fancier than their entire apartment. The floors were made of shiny marble and paintings hung on the walls. "Now, Marcus, you must be very quiet today," Elena said in a whisper. "Mrs. Worthington is having some friends over this afternoon. Stay out of the way and do not touch anything. Understand?" Marcus nodded seriously. He understood. His mother had told him many times about Mrs. Victoria Worthington. She was the wife of a millionaire who owned several companies. She was very particular about her house and did not like mistakes. Elena had worked for her for 3 years and was always nervous about losing this job. It paid better than the other 2 cleaning jobs she had. Elena led Marcus to a small room near the kitchen where the cleaning supplies were kept. "You can stay here and read your book," she said. "I will check on you every hour. If you need anything, come find me, but try not to bother me unless it is important." Marcus sat down on an old wooden chair in the corner of the small room. He opened his book and tried to read, but he could hear his mother's footsteps as she walked away, pushing her cleaning cart. He felt sorry for her. She worked so hard and her hands were always red and rough from the cleaning chemicals. After reading for about 30 minutes, Marcus grew restless. He was 12 years old, full of energy, and sitting still was difficult. He stood up and peeked out of the small room. The hallway was empty. He could hear his mother vacuuming somewhere far away in the house. Marcus decided to explore just a little bit. He walked quietly down the hallway, his worn shoes making almost no sound on the expensive floors. He passed the kitchen, which was bigger than his entire apartment. Shiny pots and pans hung from the ceiling. The refrigerator was huge and made of stainless steel. He continued walking and found himself in a large entrance hall. A grand staircase curved up to the 2nd floor. A chandelier that looked like it was made of 1,000 diamonds hung from the ceiling high above. Marcus had never seen anything so beautiful in his whole life. Then he heard it. Music. Piano music. It was coming from somewhere nearby, but it was not someone playing. It sounded like a recording. Marcus followed the sound like a magnet pulling him forward. He found himself standing in the doorway of the most amazing room he had ever seen. The music room was large, with tall windows that let in streams of golden sunlight. Bookshelves filled with books lined one wall. But what caught Marcus's attention was the piano. It sat in the center of the room like a king on a throne. It was black and so shiny that Marcus could see his reflection in it. The wood looked smooth and perfect. The keys were white and black, arranged in a pattern that seemed to call to him. Marcus had seen pianos before, but only in pictures, and once through a store window. He had never been this close to one. The music he had heard was coming from a speaker system in the room, but it had stopped now. The room was quiet except for the sound of his own breathing. He took one step into the room, then another. He knew he should not be there. His mother had told him to stay in the small room and not touch anything. But something about the piano pulled him forward. He stopped a few feet away from it, not daring to get any closer. His hands stayed at his sides, but his fingers moved slightly, as if they wanted to touch the keys. Well, what do we have here? The voice made Marcus jump. He spun around and saw a woman standing in the doorway. She was tall and thin, wearing a white dress that probably cost more than his mother made in a year. Her hair was perfect, styled in a way that did not move even when she walked. Jewelry sparkled on her neck, wrists, and fingers. Her face was beautiful but cold like a statue. This was Mrs. Victoria Worthington. Marcus knew it immediately. I am sorry, Marcus stammered. I did not mean to. You were just what? Victoria asked, walking into the room. Her high heels clicked on the floor with each step. Snooping around where you do not belong? No, ma'am, Marcus said quietly. I heard music and I followed it. I am sorry. Victoria looked him up and down, her eyes taking in his too small shirt and worn shoes. Her lips curved into a smile that was not really a smile at all. You must be the maid's boy. Elena's son. She told me she would have to bring you today. Yes, ma'am. I am Marcus. Marcus, Victoria repeated as if testing how the name felt in her mouth. And what were you doing staring at my piano, Marcus? I was just looking at it, Marcus said honestly. It is very beautiful. I have never seen one so nice up close before. Victoria laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. I am sure you have not. This piano cost more money than your mother makes in 5 years. It is a Steinway grand piano, imported from Germany, only the finest for the Worthington home. Marcus did not know what to say to that. He looked down at his feet. The sound of voices came from another part of the house. Victoria glanced toward the door. Ah, my guests are arriving. Come with me, boy. I should go find my mother, Marcus said. Nonsense. Come along. Victoria walked out of the music room and Marcus had no choice but to follow her. They went back to the entrance hall where 3 women were just coming through the front door. They all looked like Victoria, wearing expensive dresses and too much jewelry. They air-kissed Victoria's cheeks and laughed at things that did not seem funny. Ladies, let me introduce you to someone, Victoria said with that same not-real smile. This is Marcus. He is the son of my maid. The 3 women turned to look at Marcus. Their eyes were not unkind, just curious, as if he were an interesting object in a museum. How sweet, one of them said. Does he help his mother clean? Another asked. I found him gawking at my piano, Victoria said, and all 4 women laughed. Marcus felt his face grow hot. He wanted to run and find his mother, but his feet seemed stuck to the floor. Do you like music, Marcus? Victoria asked, her voice sweet but with something mean underneath it. Yes, ma'am, Marcus said quietly. I like it very much. Have you ever played the piano? No, ma'am. I have never had the chance. Victoria exchanged glances with her friends. They all seemed to be in on the same joke. Well, that is a shame, is it not, ladies? Here is this boy who likes music, but he has never even touched a piano. Tell me, Marcus, what kind of music do you like? Marcus thought about the question. I like all kinds. Classical music is nice. I heard some Beethoven once at school. And Mozart. I like how the notes all fit together like a puzzle. The women seemed surprised by his answer. Victoria raised one perfectly shaped eyebrow. Really? A boy from your background knows about Beethoven and Mozart? We learned about them in school, Marcus explained. Mr. Chen, my music teacher, plays recordings for us sometimes. He says music is for everyone, not just for rich people. One of Victoria's friends made a small sound as if she was holding back a laugh. Victoria's smile became even colder. Your music teacher sounds very idealistic, Victoria said. But the truth is, Marcus, that fine things like this piano are not for everyone. They require years of expensive lessons, talent, and breeding. They are for people who can appreciate them properly. Marcus felt something tight in his chest. He knew what she meant. She meant people like him could never have nice things. People like him should just look and stay quiet. However, Victoria continued, walking back toward the music room with her friends following. I am a generous person. Marcus, come here. Marcus followed them into the music room. His heart was beating fast. Victoria stood beside the piano and placed one hand on its shiny surface. I will make you an offer, Marcus. A challenge, if you will. If you can play this piano, really play it. Not just bang on the keys like a child, then I will adopt you. I will give you the life your poor mother never could. You will live in this house, wear fine clothes, eat fine food, and never want for anything ever again. The three women gasped with delight at this idea. They whispered to each other excitedly. Marcus stared at Victoria. You want to adopt me? If you can play the piano, yes. If you have any real talent, any ability at all, I will take you in as my own son. But you must truly play with skill and beauty. Can you do that, Marcus? Marcus looked at the piano. His fingers tingled with the desire to touch it, to press the keys and hear what sounds they made. But he knew the truth. No, ma'am. I cannot play the piano. I have never learned. Victoria's face showed mock disappointment, but her eyes were cruel. What a shame. I suppose you will have to remain what you are then. The maid's son. Your mother cleaning toilets while you grow up in poverty. You will probably end up cleaning houses yourself one day, just like her. The words hit Marcus like punches. He saw the women smiling, enjoying the show. His face burned with shame and anger, but mostly with shame. Shame because what she said might be true. Shame because his mother worked so hard and still they had so little. Shame because he could not defend himself or her, that is enough. Everyone turned to see Elena standing in the doorway. She had heard everything. Her cleaning apron was still on and she held a dust cloth in her red, rough hands. But she stood straight and tall and her eyes were fierce. Marcus, come here, Elena said firmly. Marcus walked quickly to his mother's side. She put her hand on his shoulder and looked directly at Victoria Worthington. Mrs. Worthington, I apologize for my son wandering into your music room. It will not happen again. We will stay in the areas where I work from now on. Victoria waved her hand dismissively. Oh, Elena, do not be so serious. I was just having a bit of fun with the boy. No harm done, although he should learn his place. His place, Elena said slowly, is as a child who loves music and learning. That is his place, not in your categories of rich and poor, worthy and unworthy. The room fell silent. The three friends looked shocked. No one spoke to Victoria Worthington like that. Victoria's face hardened. Be careful, Elena. You are a good maid, but you are replaceable. I know, Elena said. We all are, rich or poor, but my son is not replaceable to me, and he is worth more than you could ever understand. Elena turned and led Marcus out of the music room. They walked quickly through the halls back to the small supply room. Once they were alone, Elena knelt down in front of Marcus. Her eyes were wet with tears, but she was not crying. I am sorry you had to hear those things, mijo, she said softly, but I want you to know something. You are worth everything to me. Everything. And that woman is wrong. Fine things are not just for rich people. Music is not just for people born with money. But Mama, I cannot play the piano, Marcus said. Maybe she is right. She is not right about what matters, Elena said firmly.
Can you play now?
No, but that does not mean you cannot learn. That does not mean you are less than anyone else. You have something more valuable than her money. You have a good heart and a strong mind. Never forget that. Marcus hugged his mother tightly. She smelled like cleaning products in the lavender soap she used. She held him close, and for a moment the big mansion and all its expensive things did not matter. But even as his mother held him, Marcus could not stop thinking about the piano. He could not stop hearing Victoria's cruel words. If you can play this piano, I will adopt you. He did not want to be adopted by that mean woman. But he wanted something else. He wanted to prove that someone like him could play beautiful music. He wanted to show that being poor did not mean being worthless. In that moment, in a small supply room in a mansion where he did not belong, Marcus Martinez made a decision. He did not tell his mother. He did not tell anyone, but deep in his heart a fire started burning. He would learn to play the piano. Somehow, some way, he would learn. Not because of Victoria Worthington's cruel challenge, not for her or her friends or their approval, but for himself, and for his mother, who believed in him even when the world said people like them did not deserve beautiful things. The decision was made. The journey was about to begin, and Marcus had no idea how hard it would be, or how much it would change everything. The next Monday, Marcus went to school with a new purpose. He had thought about the piano all weekend. He had dreamed about it at night. In his dreams, he could play beautiful music that made everyone stop and listen. But when he woke up, he remembered that dreams were not real. Learning to play piano took work, and work was something Marcus was willing to do. At lunchtime, Marcus did not go to the cafeteria like he usually did. Instead, he went to the music room. The school music room was nothing like the fancy room in the Worthington mansion. The walls needed painting and the chairs were old and mismatched. But it had instruments, including an old upright piano in the corner. Mr. Chen was there eating his lunch at his desk while reading a book. He was an elderly man with white hair and kind eyes behind round glasses. He had been teaching music at the school for 30 years. Everyone liked Mr. Chen because he never yelled and he always seemed happy. "Marcus?" Mr. Chen looked up from his book, surprised. "Do you need something?" Marcus stood in the doorway, suddenly feeling shy. "Mr. Chen, I wanted to ask you something." Could you teach me to play the piano?" Mr. Chen put down his book and smiled. "That is a wonderful goal, Marcus. But piano lessons are expensive. I teach some private lessons after school, but I charge $50 per hour. Does your mother know you are asking?" Marcus's heart sank. $50. His mother did not have 50 extra dollars. She barely had enough money for food and rent. "No, sir. We cannot afford lessons." "I know that. But I thought maybe you could show me some things? Just basic stuff. I could come during lunch or after school. I would not take up much of your time." Mr. Chen studied Marcus for a long moment. "Why do you want to learn to play piano, Marcus? Most boys your age want to play guitar or drums." Marcus thought about how to explain it. He could not tell Mr. Chen about Victoria Worthington and her cruel challenge. He did not want to sound like he was complaining or looking for pity. "I heard some piano music and it made me feel something. Like the music was talking without words. I want to learn how to do that. I want to understand how it works." Mr. Chen's smile grew wider. "That is the best reason I have ever heard. Come here, Marcus." Marcus walked over to the piano. Mr. Chen stood up and sat down on the piano bench. He patted the space next to him. "Sit." Marcus sat down. The bench was worn smooth from years of students sitting there. The piano keys were yellowed with age, and some of them had chips on the edges. But to Marcus, it was as beautiful as the Steinway Grand in the mansion. "Now I cannot give you formal lessons," Mr. Chen said. "That would not be fair to my paying students. But I can show you the basics and you can practice here during lunchtime. The piano needs to be played anyway. It is good for the instrument. But Marcus, you must understand something. Learning piano is hard work. It takes years to become good. Many students give up after a few weeks because it is frustrating. Are you sure you want to try?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said firmly. "I am sure. All right then. Let us begin with the very basics. These are the keys. Each key makes a different sound, a different note. See how they are arranged? White keys and black keys in a pattern. This pattern repeats across the whole keyboard." Mr. Chen began to explain about notes and scales. He showed Marcus where middle C was and how to position his hands. He explained about finger numbers and proper posture. Marcus listened to every word as if his life depended on it. He tried to remember everything. That first day, Marcus only learned a simple 5-note scale. C, D, E, F, G, just 5 notes. But when he played them, one after another, they sounded like magic to him. He did it over and over until the lunch bell rang. "You have good instincts," Mr. Chen said as Marcus stood to leave. "Your hand position is naturally quite good. That is unusual for a beginner. Come back tomorrow and we will continue." Marcus came back the next day, and the next, and the day after that. Every lunch period, he went to the music room instead of the cafeteria. He stopped eating lunch with his friends. They asked him where he went, but he just said he had to do something for a teacher. He did not tell anyone about learning piano. It felt like a secret, something precious that he wanted to protect. At home, Marcus faced a problem. He could only practice for 30 minutes each day at school. Professional pianists practiced for hours every day. How could he get better with only 30 minutes? He could not practice at home because they did not have a piano. They barely had space in their small apartment for the furniture they had. One evening, Marcus sat at the small kitchen table with a piece of paper. Elena was cooking dinner, stirring a pot of beans on the stove. Marcus took a pencil and very carefully began to draw. He drew a long rectangle and divided it into sections. He drew the pattern of white keys and black keys, trying to make it as accurate as possible. It took him almost an hour, but finally he had it. "A paper keyboard, what are you drawing, mijo?" Elena asked, looking over his shoulder. "Just something for school," Marcus said. He did not want to explain yet. He was afraid if he talked about it, the dream would disappear. That night, after Elena went to bed, Marcus sat at the table with his paper keyboard in front of him. He placed his hands on the paper where the keys were drawn. He could not make any sound, but he could practice the movements. He could practice the fingering that Mr. Chen had taught him. His fingers pressed the paper silently, moving through the scales he had learned. It felt silly at first, playing a paper piano that made no sound. But then Marcus closed his eyes. In his mind, he heard the notes. He remembered what each key sounded like from his practice at school. His fingers moved across the paper, and in his mind, music played. Every night after that, Marcus practiced on his paper keyboard. Elena noticed that he stayed up later, sitting at the table with his paper and a library book about music. She wanted to ask what he was doing, but something stopped her. She saw the concentration on his son's face, the determination in his eyes. Whatever he was doing, it was important to him. Weeks passed. Marcus's fingers began to remember the patterns. At school, Mr. Chen was amazed at his progress. "Marcus, you are learning very quickly. Are you practicing at home? Do you have a piano?" "No, sir," Marcus admitted. "But I practice anyway. I have my own method." Mr. Chen did not ask what that method was. He just smiled and continued teaching. They moved beyond simple scales to easy songs. First just melodies with one hand, then adding simple chords with the other hand. Marcus soaked up every lesson like a sponge soaking up water. But Marcus needed more. 30 minutes a day was not enough. He started going to the public library after school. The library had computers that people could use for free. Marcus discovered that he could watch videos on the internet. There were thousands of piano lessons on video, teachers from all over the world showing how to play different songs and techniques. Marcus watched every video he could find. He took notes in his notebook. He drew diagrams of hand positions. He wrote down the names of techniques and exercises. At night, he practiced everything on his paper keyboard, his fingers moving silently while music played in his mind. One day, about 3 months after he started learning, Marcus arrived at the music room for his lunch practice and found Mr. Chen waiting with a smile. "Marcus, I have a surprise for you. I spoke to the principal. You are allowed to come to the music room before school starts in the morning. The school opens at 7, and first period does not start until 8. That gives you an extra hour to practice every day if you want it." Marcus's face lit up. "Really? I can come early?" "If your mother can bring you, yes. I will be here preparing for my classes, so you will have supervision." That night, Marcus asked Elena if she could bring him to school early. She had to leave for her morning cleaning job at 7:30, so it would mean changing her schedule. But when she saw how much it meant to Marcus, she agreed. She did not fully understand why the piano had become so important to him, but she supported him anyway. That was what mothers did, so Marcus's new routine began. He woke up at 5:30 every morning. He got dressed and ate a quick breakfast. Elena took him to school by 7, and he practiced in the music room until classes started at 8. At lunch, he practiced for 30 minutes. After school 3 days a week, he went to the library to watch videos and take notes. At night before bed, he practiced on his paper keyboard. His friends noticed that he was different. He did not play basketball with them after school anymore. He did not go to their houses to play video games on weekends. They stopped inviting him to things because he always said no. Marcus felt lonely sometimes, but the piano filled the empty spaces. The music became his friend, his companion, his purpose. 4 months after he started learning, something amazing happened. Marcus was practicing a simple piece by Bach, a minuet that Mr. Chen had taught him. His fingers moved across the keys, playing the notes he had practiced hundreds of times. But suddenly something changed. It was not just notes anymore. It was music. Real music. The melody sang, the harmony supported it, and Marcus felt the emotion of the piece flow through his fingers. Tears came to his eyes and he did not know why. He just kept playing, feeling something he had never felt before. Joy and sadness mixed together, beautiful and almost painful at the same time. When he finished, he looked up to find Mr. Chen standing nearby, listening. The old teacher's eyes were wet with tears too. You felt it, Mr. Chen said softly. You felt the music, not just played the notes. Marcus, do you know how rare that is? Some people study piano for years and never feel what you just felt. You have something special. You have a gift. Marcus did not know what to say. He just looked at his hands, these ordinary hands that had somehow made something extraordinary. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Mr. Chen continued. You have learned in 4 months what takes most students a year to learn. You practice more than any student I have ever taught, including my private students who pay for lessons. Your dedication is remarkable. But more than that, you have musicality. You understand music in your soul, not just in your mind. What does that mean? Marcus asked. It means that music is not just something you do. It is part of who you are, and that is a precious thing. You must protect it and nurture it. From that day on, Mr. Chen began teaching Marcus more difficult pieces. They worked on technique, on expression, on dynamics. They studied the great composers, Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, Brahms. Marcus learned not just how to play their music, but why they wrote it, what they were trying to express. At home, Elena noticed the change in her son. He seemed more focused, more mature somehow. He still helped her with chores and did his homework, but every spare moment went to music. She found papers all over his room with notes and diagrams. She found his paper keyboard worn from use and understood finally what he had been doing. One Saturday morning, Elena had to go to the Worthington mansion to work again. She had not brought Marcus since that terrible day with Victoria and her challenge, but this time Marcus asked if he could come. Elena was surprised but agreed. She thought perhaps he wanted to spend time with her, even if it meant being bored in the supply room. But Marcus had a different reason. He wanted to see the piano again. He wanted to see what he had been working toward. He needed to remember why he started this journey. When they arrived at the mansion, Elena went to work and Marcus went to the supply room like before. But after an hour, when he was sure Mrs. Worthington was out of the house, he quietly walked to the music room. The door was open and the room was empty. The Steinway grand piano sat there, gleaming in the sunlight from the tall windows. Marcus walked up to it slowly. He did not touch it. He just looked. He noticed things he had not noticed before. The way the light reflected off the polished wood. The grain of the wood itself like tiny rivers flowing across the surface. The letters Steinway & Sons written in gold above the keyboard. The perfect alignment of the keys, all exactly the same height and spacing. It was a beautiful instrument. But Marcus realized something. It was just an instrument. It was wood and metal and strings. What made it special was not how expensive it was or who owned it. What made it special was the music it could create. And that music did not come from the piano. It came from the person playing it. Marcus reached out and gently touched one key. Just one. It made a clear, pure sound that rang out in the silent room. It was a beautiful sound, yes, but it was not more beautiful than the sound from the old upright piano at school. It was just different. Marcus smiled. He was not afraid of this piano anymore, and he was not impressed by it either. It was just a tool, like a hammer or a paintbrush. What mattered was not the tool, but the person using it. He turned and walked out of the music room. He went back to the supply room and spent the rest of the day reading his book and waiting for his mother. He did not tell Elena about going to see the piano. It was just something he needed to do for himself. That night, Marcus practiced on his paper keyboard with renewed energy. He was not practicing to impress Victoria Worthington. He was not practicing to prove anything to anyone. He was practicing because he loved it. He was practicing because music had become part of his soul, just like Mr. Chen said. The weeks turned into months. Fall became winter. Marcus turned 13. He kept practicing, kept learning, kept improving. Some days were hard. His fingers hurt from playing so much. He made mistakes that frustrated him. There were pieces that seemed impossible to learn no matter how many times he tried, but he did not give up. When a piece was too hard, he worked on it slowly, measure by measure, sometimes note by note. When his fingers hurt, he rested them and studied the written music instead, learning to read the notes even better. When he felt discouraged, he thought about his mother, who never gave up even when she was tired and her hands hurt from cleaning. Mr. Chen gave him recordings of famous pianists to listen to. Marcus listened to them over and over on the old CD player in their apartment. He listened to Vladimir Horowitz, Arthur Rubinstein, and Martha Argerich. He heard how each one interpreted the same pieces differently. He learned that music was not just about playing the right notes. It was about expression, emotion, and personal style. By the time spring arrived, Marcus had been learning piano for almost 6 months. In that 6 months, he had learned what typically took students 2 years to learn. He could play intermediate-level pieces. He could sight-read simple music. He understood music theory and could talk about chord progressions and key signatures. But more importantly, when Marcus played, something special happened. The music breathed, it lived. People stopped what they were doing to listen. Other students started coming to the music room during lunch just to hear him practice. Teachers found excuses to walk by the music room in the mornings when he was playing. One day in late spring, Mr. Chen asked Marcus to stay after school for a moment. "Marcus, there is something I want to talk to you about. There is a summer music program at the community college. It is for gifted young musicians. They provide scholarships for students who cannot afford to pay. I would like to recommend you for this program." Marcus's heart jumped. "Really, you think I am good enough?" "Marcus, you are more than good enough. You are exceptional. But I must warn you, if you are accepted, you will be studying with students who have been taking private lessons for years. Their families are wealthy. They have expensive instruments at home to practice on. You will be the only scholarship student there. It might be difficult." Marcus thought about Victoria Worthington and her cruel friends. He thought about how they looked at him like he was beneath them. But he also thought about the music, about the feeling he got when he played. That feeling was more important than anything else. "I want to try," Marcus said. "I want to apply." Mr. Chen smiled. "I thought you would say that. I already started working on your recommendation letter. There is one more thing. To apply, you need to submit a video of yourself playing. We can record it here on my phone. You should prepare 2 pieces. One fast technical piece to show your skills, and one slow expressive piece to show your musicality. You have 2 weeks to get ready. Can you do it?" "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "I can do it." For the next 2 weeks, Marcus practiced harder than ever before. He chose the Invention by Bach for his technical piece, all quick notes and complex rhythms. For his expressive piece, he chose a Nocturne by Chopin, slow and emotional and beautiful. He practiced each piece dozens of times every day. He worked on every detail, every phrase, every single note until it was as perfect as he could make it. Elena noticed that Marcus barely ate during those 2 weeks. He was too focused on his practicing. She worried about him, but she also felt proud. She did not fully understand what he was working toward, but she knew it was important to him. Finally, the day came to record his video. Mr. Chen set up his phone on a small tripod. The music room was quiet and empty. Marcus sat at the old upright piano, his hands resting on the keys. He took a deep breath. "Whenever you are ready," Mr. Chen said softly. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about the journey that brought him here. A journey that started with a cruel woman's challenge, continued through months of work and sacrifice, and led to this moment. He was not the same boy who had stared at a piano 6 months ago, feeling small and worthless. He was different now, stronger, more sure of himself. He opened his eyes and began to play. Summer came, and Marcus received his acceptance letter to the community college music program. The scholarship covered everything. He would spend 4 weeks learning from professional musicians, practicing in real concert halls, and studying with other talented young people. Elena cried when Marcus showed her the letter. She held it in her red, work-worn hands and cried tears of joy and pride. The summer program changed everything for Marcus. The other students were talented, yes, and many of them had been taking lessons since they were small children. But Marcus worked harder than all of them. While they went to lunch together and talked about their expensive instruments and their private teachers, Marcus stayed in the practice room. While they complained about having to practice 2 hours a day, Marcus practiced 4 or 5 hours. The instructors noticed. One teacher, a concert pianist named Dr. Sarah Williams, took special interest in Marcus. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. After hearing Marcus play one day, she asked him to stay after class. "You are the scholarship student, correct?" Dr. Williams asked. "The one Mr. Chen recommended?" "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said. "Tell me something, Marcus. Where did you study before this summer? Who was your private teacher?" "I did not have a private teacher, ma'am. Mr. Chen taught me basics during lunch at school. The rest I learned from library books and videos on the internet." Dr. Williams stared at him. You are telling me you have only been playing piano for 6 months? And you taught yourself? Well, Mr. Chen helped a lot. And I practiced every day. I practice on a paper keyboard at home because we do not have a piano. A paper keyboard, Dr. Williams repeated slowly. She looked at Marcus like she was seeing him for the first time. Young man, do you understand what you have accomplished? Most students with 6 months of training can barely play a simple song. You are playing intermediate repertoire with real musicality. That is not normal. That is extraordinary. Marcus did not know what to say. He just shrugged. I really like music. Dr. Williams laughed, but it was a kind laugh full of warmth. You do not just like music, Marcus. Music is part of your soul. I can hear it when you play. You have something that cannot be taught. You have natural talent combined with incredible work ethic. That combination is very rare. She paused and looked at him thoughtfully. How old are you? 13, ma'am. I will be 14 in November. 13, she said, shaking her head in amazement. Marcus, I want to work with you privately, no charge. I see something special in you and I want to help you develop it. Would you be interested? Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. Dr. Williams was famous. She had played in concert halls all over the world. And she wanted to teach him for free? Yes, ma'am. Marcus said quickly. I would be very interested. Thank you so much. Good. We will start after the summer program ends. Once a week you will come to my studio. We will work on technique, repertoire, and performance skills. But Marcus, I must warn you. I will push you hard. I will expect complete dedication from you. Can you give me that? Yes, ma'am. I promise, and so Marcus's training continued to a new level. The summer program ended, but his lessons with Dr. Williams began. Every Saturday morning, Elena took him across town to Dr. Williams's studio. It was in a building downtown, a small room with a beautiful grand piano and walls covered with pictures of Dr. Williams performing in different concert halls. Dr. Williams was a tough teacher. She corrected every small mistake. She made Marcus play the same passage over and over until it was perfect. She taught him about the history of music, about different styles and periods. She pushed him to understand not just how to play the notes, but why the composer wrote them that way. But she also encouraged him. When Marcus played something well, she praised him genuinely. She told him stories about her own journey in music, about her struggles and triumphs. She treated him not like a charity case or a poor student who needed help, but like a real musician worthy of serious training. Months passed. Marcus turned 14. He started high school, but music remained his focus. He still practiced on his paper keyboard at night. But now Dr. Williams arranged for him to practice at the community college during weekends when the practice rooms were empty. Real pianos whenever he wanted. It felt like a dream. Marcus grew taller. His shoulders broadened. He was not a little boy anymore, but a young man. His hands grew larger, which was good for playing piano. Dr. Williams said he had perfect hands for a pianist, with long fingers and natural flexibility. One day in late fall, almost a year after he first started learning piano, Dr. Williams made an announcement. Marcus, I am entering you in a competition. It is a regional piano competition for young musicians. Students come from all over the state. First prize is a scholarship to a prestigious summer music academy and a chance to perform with the city symphony orchestra. Marcus felt nervous excitement. Do you think I am ready? I think you are more than ready. You have been working with me for months now. Your technique is solid. Your musicality is outstanding. You just need experience performing in front of people and judges. This competition will be good for you, win or lose. Marcus practiced his competition pieces for weeks. Dr. Williams helped him choose repertoire that would show both his technical skills and his emotional depth. They worked on stage presence, on dealing with nerves, on how to recover if he made a mistake during performance. The day of the competition arrived on a cold December Saturday. The competition was held in the concert hall at the city university. Elena took the day off from work to come watch. She wore her nicest dress and sat in the audience, her hands folded nervously in her lap. Marcus performed third out of 15 competitors. He walked onto the stage in his only suit, which Elena had bought at a thrift store and altered to fit him. The suit was a bit worn, but it was clean and neat. He sat at the piano, adjusted the bench, and placed his hands on the keys. For just a moment, Marcus thought about Victoria Worthington and her challenge. If you can play this piano, I will adopt you. He smiled slightly. He did not need her adoption. He did not need her approval. He played for himself, for his mother, for Mr. Chen and Dr. Williams who believed in him. Most of all, he played for the music itself. He began to play and the world disappeared. There was only the piano and the music flowing through him. His fingers danced across the keys. The notes sang out, filling the concert hall with beauty. When he played the slow movement, tears came to some people's eyes. When he played the fast movement, people leaned forward in their seats, amazed at his speed and precision. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then the audience erupted in applause. Marcus stood and bowed, his heart racing. He looked at his mother in the audience and saw tears streaming down her face. But she was smiling so wide and proud. Marcus did not win first place that day. He came in second. The first place winner was a 16-year-old girl who had been taking lessons since she was 4 years old. But Dr. Williams told him that second place was extraordinary for someone with less than a year of serious training. More importantly, people noticed Marcus that day. Other teachers came up to Dr. Williams asking about him. A local newspaper wrote a small article about the competition and mentioned Marcus as a rising talent. Doors were beginning to open. Winter turned to spring, and then summer came again. Marcus spent another month at the summer music program, but this time he was more experienced. He made friends with some of the other students. They practiced together and talked about music and composers. For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt like he belonged somewhere. But something else was happening too. Elena's hours at the Worthington mansion had been reduced. Mrs. Worthington had hired another maid and did not need Elena as often. Money was tight at home, even tighter than usual. Elena tried to hide her worry from Marcus, but he noticed. He saw how she checked the bills and bit her lip. He saw how she sometimes skipped meals so he would have enough to eat. One day in early September, Elena told Marcus she had to work at the Worthington mansion on Saturday. It was a special event, a big party Mrs. Worthington was throwing. Elena would make extra money for the work, which they desperately needed. "Can I come with you?" Marcus asked. Elena looked surprised. "You want to come? Why?" "You have not asked to come there since that day." "I know," Marcus said, "but I would like to come. I can read in the supply room like before. I just want to be near you." That was not the whole truth. Marcus had another reason for wanting to go. He wanted to see the piano again. He wanted to see the room where Victoria Worthington had made her cruel challenge. He was different now, and he wanted to see that place through his new eyes. Saturday arrived. It had been almost exactly a year since Victoria first challenged Marcus. A year since he stood in that music room feeling small and worthless. A year since his mother defended him with fierce love. The mansion looked the same. The fountain still ran in the circular driveway. The grass was still perfectly green. But Marcus was not the same boy who had walked up to the servants' entrance a year ago. He was taller now, stronger, more confident. He walked differently with his head held high. Elena led him inside to the supply room like before. The party would start in a few hours, and Elena had to help set up. Marcus sat in the same small room on the same wooden chair. But everything felt different. After about an hour, Marcus heard voices coming from the main part of the house. He heard Victoria's voice, high and commanding, giving orders to the staff. He heard other women's voices too, her friends arriving early to help prepare. Marcus stood up and walked quietly through the hallways. He knew he should not wander around, but something pulled him forward. He found himself standing outside the music room. The door was partially open. The Steinway grand piano was there, silent and still, waiting. Marcus pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. He walked straight to the piano without hesitation. He was not afraid of it anymore. He sat down on the bench and looked at the keys. They were the same keys, white and black in their eternal pattern. But now Marcus knew them. He knew what each one could do. He knew how they worked together to create music. His fingers touched the keys gently. He played a soft chord, then another. The sound was beautiful, rich and full. He began to play one of the pieces Dr. Williams had taught him, a nocturne by Chopin. The notes flowed from his fingers like water, filling the room with beauty and emotion. Marcus lost himself in the music. He did not hear the door open wider. He did not notice the people gathering in the doorway. He just played, his eyes closed, his whole being focused on the music. When he finished the piece, he opened his eyes and looked up. Standing in the doorway was Victoria Worthington. Behind her were 3 other women, the same friends who had been there a year ago. They all stared at Marcus with their mouths open. Marcus stood up calmly. "Hello, Mrs. Worthington." Victoria's face had gone pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out at first. Finally, she managed to speak. "Who are you? What are you doing at my piano?" "Do you not remember me, Mrs. Worthington? I am Marcus, Elena's son. We met here about a year ago. You made me a challenge." Recognition slowly spread across Victoria's face. "The maid's boy? But you could not play." "You said you could not play?" "That was true then," Marcus said. "But I learned." One of the other women spoke up. "Victoria, did you hear that? He just played Chopin. He played it beautifully." Victoria looked confused and angry at the same time. "This is impossible. You cannot learn to play like that in 1 year. You must have been lying before. You must have already known how to play." "No, ma'am. I had never touched a piano before that day. But after I left here, I decided to learn. A teacher at my school helped me. I practiced every day. I taught myself from books and videos. I worked very hard." "But why?" Victoria asked. "Why would you do that?" Marcus looked at her steadily. "At first I wanted to prove that someone like me could learn beautiful things. That being poor does not mean being worthless. But then I discovered something better. I discovered that I love music. I learned for myself, not to prove anything to you." The 3 women looked at Victoria with new eyes. One of them said quietly, "Victoria, do you remember what you promised? You said if he could play your piano, you would adopt him." Victoria's face turned red. "I was joking. It was just a game. I never thought—" "You never thought someone like him could actually learn?" Marcus said. "It was not a question, but a statement. But I did learn. So what now, Mrs. Worthington? Do you keep your promise?" The room fell silent. Everyone waited for Victoria's answer. Her face showed many emotions: embarrassment, anger, fear, but also something else. Maybe, just maybe, a tiny bit of shame. Victoria started, then stopped. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him for the first time. Not at his old clothes or worn shoes, but at his face, his eyes, the dignity in the way he stood. "It is all right, Mrs. Worthington," Marcus said, and his voice was kind, not angry. "I do not want you to adopt me. I have a mother who loves me. She sacrifices for me every day. She believes in me. That is worth more than all your money and all your promises." At that moment, Elena appeared in the doorway. She had heard everything. Her face showed fear and worry, but also fierce pride. She walked into the room and stood beside her son. "Mrs. Worthington, I apologize for Marcus being in your music room without permission," Elena said, her voice steady. "But I will not apologize for him playing your piano. He has earned that right, not because of your challenge, but because he is a talented musician who worked hard to develop his gift." Victoria looked back and forth between mother and son. For once in her life, she had no words. She had been cornered by her own cruelty, by her own thoughtless challenge made a year ago. One of her friends, a woman named Margaret, stepped forward. "Play something else," she said to Marcus, "please. I want to hear more." Marcus looked at his mother. Elena nodded. Marcus sat back down at the piano. This time he chose a different piece. He chose the Bach invention he had prepared for his competition. It was fast and complex, all running notes and intricate patterns. His fingers flew across the keys with precision and confidence. The women watched in amazement. More people gathered in the doorway. The catering staff, other servants, even Mr. Worthington himself, who had come to see what the commotion was about. They all watched this 14-year-old boy in his worn clothes create magic on the expensive piano. When Marcus finished, the room erupted in applause. Everyone clapped except Victoria, who stood frozen, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Mr. Worthington walked into the room, clapping loudly. "That was extraordinary," he said. "Young man, where did you study?" Marcus stood and faced him. "I learned from my school music teacher and from Dr. Sarah Williams at the community college, sir. I have been playing for about a year." "1 year?" Mr. Worthington looked shocked. "Just 1 year? That is remarkable." "Absolutely remarkable," he turned to his wife. "Victoria, this is the kind of talent we should be supporting. This is exactly what our foundation should be funding." Victoria finally found her voice. "The foundation is for established musicians, not beginners." "He is not a beginner anymore," Margaret said. "Did you not hear what we all just heard? This boy has real talent, natural talent combined with dedication. That is rare and precious. Mr. Worthington pulled out his phone. I am calling Gerald Thompson. He is on the board of the City Academy of Music. They have a youth program for talented students. This boy needs to be there. Richard, wait, Victoria said, her voice sharp. But her husband was already dialing. Marcus looked at his mother. Elena's eyes were wide with confusion and hope. Things were happening so fast. One moment they were worried about Victoria's reaction, and the next moment her husband was making phone calls about music academies. The other women gathered around Marcus, asking him questions. Where did he learn? What did he practice on? Did he know other pieces? Could he play something else? They treated him like he was interesting, valuable, worth their attention. It was strange and overwhelming. Victoria stood apart from everyone, her arms crossed, her face tight. She watched her husband on the phone, watched her friends fawning over the maid's son, watched the servants whispering excitedly to each other. Her careful world was turning upside down. Mr. Worthington finished his call and walked back over. Gerald is coming over right now. He lives just a few blocks away. He wants to hear you play himself. He turned to Victoria. Dear, the party does not start for another hour. We have time. Richard, this is inappropriate, Victoria said. This is my party. My guests will arrive soon. We cannot have all this chaos. Victoria, this is more important than a party. Her husband said firmly. This boy has real talent. If we can help him, we should. Is that not what we always say our foundation is about? Helping people reach their potential? Victoria had no answer to that. She just pressed her lips together and looked away. Elena touched Marcus's shoulder. Mijo, maybe we should go. I need to finish my work. This is too much, but Marcus shook his head. Mama, I want to play for this Mr. Thompson. This might be important. This might be a chance for something good. Margaret, the woman who had asked Marcus to play again, spoke to Elena. Mrs. Martinez, is it? Please stay. Your son is very talented. Gerald Thompson is an important person in the music world. He can open doors that might otherwise stay closed. Elena looked uncertain, but she nodded. She pulled Marcus aside and spoke to him quietly. Marcus, if you do this, if you play for these people, everything might change. Are you ready for that? Marcus thought about the question. Was he ready? He had spent a year learning piano in secret, practicing on paper keyboards, watching videos at the library. He had done it all privately, quietly, just for himself and the music. Now suddenly important people wanted to hear him play. It was scary, but it was also exciting. I am ready, Mama, he said. This is what I have been working for. Elena hugged him tight. Then play beautifully. Play from your heart. Make them hear what I hear when you play. 20 minutes later, a tall man with silver hair arrived at the mansion. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with confidence. This was Gerald Thompson, the board member of the City Academy of Music. Mr. Worthington greeted him warmly and led him to the music room where Marcus waited. So you are the young pianist I have heard about, Mr. Thompson said, shaking Marcus's hand. Richard tells me you have only been playing for a year. Is that true? Yes, sir. About 13 months now. Mr. Thompson looked at the Steinway grand piano. And you learned on an instrument like this? No, sir. I learned on an old upright piano at my school, and I practiced on a paper keyboard at home. A paper keyboard? Mr. Thompson looked puzzled. Marcus pulled out the folded paper from his pocket. He always carried it with him now like a lucky charm. He unfolded it and showed Mr. Thompson. The paper was worn and soft from months of use. The drawn keys were faded but still visible. Mr. Thompson held the paper carefully, studying it. His expression changed. The slight skepticism disappeared, replaced by something like wonder. You practiced on this? Every day? Yes, sir. I did not have a real piano at home, so I drew this. I practiced the fingering and the movements. In my mind, I heard the music. Mr. Thompson looked at Elena. Mrs. Martinez, your son has shown extraordinary dedication. That is even more impressive than natural talent. He turned back to Marcus. All right, young man. Play something for me. Choose whatever piece you want. Show me what you can do. Marcus sat at the piano. The room was full of people now. Victoria's friends, the household staff, Mr. and Mrs. Worthington, Mr. Thompson, and his mother. All of them watching him. Marcus felt nervous, but then he looked at Elena. She smiled at him with such love and pride that his nervousness melted away. He decided to play the Chopin Nocturne again. The piece Dr. Williams said showed his emotional depth best. He closed his eyes and began to play. The notes flowed from his fingers like a story being told, soft and gentle at first, then building to passionate intensity, then returning to gentle peace. Every phrase was shaped with care. Every note had meaning and purpose. Marcus was not just playing the piano. He was speaking through the music, saying things that words could never express. He poured into the music everything he had felt over the past year. The hurt from Victoria's cruelty, the love from his mother, the joy of discovering his talent, the loneliness of practicing while his friends played, the triumph of learning something difficult. All of it flowed through his fingers into the music. When he finished, he opened his eyes. The room was completely silent. Then he saw tears on his mother's face, tears on Margaret's face, even tears on Mr. Thompson's face. Mr. Worthington was clapping softly, shaking his head in amazement. Mr. Thompson walked over to Marcus and put his hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, what you just played was extraordinary. Not just technically good, though your technique is quite solid for your level of experience, but the musicality, the emotion, the way you shaped each phrase, that cannot be taught. That comes from inside." He turned to address everyone in the room. "I have heard thousands of young pianists in my career. I have judged competitions, taught at universities, sat on scholarship committees. What this young man has accomplished in just over a year is nothing short of remarkable. But more than that, he has something special. He has a gift." Mr. Thompson looked at Mr. Worthington. "Richard, we need to help this boy. The City Academy has a full scholarship program for exceptional students who cannot afford tuition. I want Marcus in that program. He needs proper training, access to good instruments, and the chance to study with master teachers. Can you make that happen?" Mr. Worthington asked. "I can recommend him strongly. The final decision is made by a committee, but my recommendation carries weight. However, there is a process. Marcus would need to audition for the committee. They would need to see him play and hear about his background and training." Marcus felt his heart racing. The City Academy of Music was famous. It was where the best young musicians in the state studied. Students who graduated from there went on to famous universities and professional careers. It seemed impossible that he could go there. "When would the audition be?" Elena asked quietly. "We have scholarship auditions in October, just a few weeks from now. I can arrange for Marcus to audition then." Mr. Thompson looked at Marcus. "But I must be honest with you. The competition for these scholarships is fierce. Students apply from all over the state. Many of them have been training since they were very young. You would be competing against students with much more experience." "I understand, sir," Marcus said. "I would like to try anyway." Dr. Williams, who had been called to come over during all the excitement, arrived at the mansion. Mr. Thompson knew her by reputation. They spoke together while Marcus played another piece for them. Dr. Williams explained Marcus's training, his dedication, and his progress. She vouched for his talent and his work ethic. "I will work with him to prepare for the audition," Dr. Williams said. "He is ready for this level of challenge. He has proven he can learn quickly and perform under pressure." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur. Victoria's party went on as planned, but the atmosphere had changed. Word spread among the guests about the maid's son who played piano like a master. Some guests asked to hear Marcus play. He performed 3 more times that afternoon, and each time people were amazed. Victoria remained distant and cold through all of it. She smiled at her guests and played the role of gracious hostess, but her smiles did not reach her eyes. Several times Marcus caught her watching him with an expression he could not read. Anger, jealousy, regret? Maybe all 3. As the sun began to set, Elena told Marcus it was time to go home. They had taken enough of these people's time. They needed to get back to their small apartment and their simple life. But as they were leaving, Margaret stopped them. "Mrs. Martinez, wait. I want to talk to you." She pulled out a business card and a checkbook. "I own a small restaurant downtown. I am always looking for good, reliable workers. The pay is better than house cleaning, and the hours are more regular. Would you be interested?" Elena looked at the card, then at Margaret. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Come by Monday morning and we will talk. I think we can work something out." Margaret smiled warmly. "Your son is special, Mrs. Martinez. Any mother who raises a boy with such talent and such character deserves good opportunities too." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Margaret also wrote a check and handed it to Elena. This is a donation to help with any expenses Marcus might have for his music training. New shoes for auditions, transportation costs, that sort of thing. Elena tried to protest, but Margaret insisted. Please take it. I want to help. What we saw today was remarkable. You both deserve support. 2 other women came forward with similar offers. One woman's husband owned a music store and offered to give Marcus a discount on any sheet music or supplies he needed. Another woman volunteered to help Elena with transportation if Marcus got into the academy and needed rides to classes. Through all of this, Victoria stood silent. She watched her friends rally around the woman she employed as a maid and the boy she had once mocked. She watched opportunities being offered, support being given, doors being opened, all because of a challenge she had made as a cruel joke. Finally, as Elena and Marcus were truly leaving, Victoria approached them. Her friends had moved away, giving them privacy. Victoria stood in front of Elena and Marcus, and for a long moment she said nothing. I owe you both an apology, Victoria finally said, her voice stiff and formal. What I said to Marcus a year ago was cruel and inappropriate. I was unkind, and I am sorry. Elena looked at her steadily. Mrs. Worthington, I appreciate your apology. But what you should understand is this. My son did not learn to play piano to prove anything to you. He did it for himself because he loves music. You were just the spark that lit the fire. The fire itself came from inside him. Victoria nodded slowly. I can see that now. He has something special. I was wrong about many things, Marcus spoke up. Mrs. Worthington, I forgive you. What you said hurt me, but it also pushed me to try something I might never have tried. In a strange way, I should thank you. Victoria looked surprised. You are very gracious, Marcus. More gracious than I deserve. My mother taught me to be kind, Marcus said simply, even to people who are not kind to us. Elena put her arm around her son's shoulders. We should go now. Thank you for allowing Marcus to play your piano today. It is a beautiful instrument. As they walked away, Victoria called after them. Mrs. Martinez, you do not have to come back here to work anymore. I think the opportunities my friends offered you are better for your family. But I will give you a good reference if you need one. Elena turned back. Thank you, Mrs. Worthington. I wish you well. On the bus ride home, Elena and Marcus sat close together. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Elena held the checks from Margaret and the other women in her purse. It was more money than she usually made in a month. It felt like a miracle. Mijo, I'm so proud of you, Elena said softly. Not just because you played beautifully today, but because of who you are. You stayed kind even when people were cruel. You worked hard even when it was difficult. You never gave up on your dream. Marcus leaned his head on his mother's shoulder. I learned all that from you, Mama. You work hard every day. You never give up. You stay kind even when life is hard. I just tried to be like you. Elena hugged him tight, and they rode the rest of the way home in comfortable silence. Tomorrow they would start preparing for the audition. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new work. But tonight they were just happy to be together, to have each other, and to know that sometimes dreams really can come true. When they got home to their small apartment, Marcus sat at the kitchen table and unfolded his paper keyboard. He practiced for 2 hours, his fingers moving silently over the worn paper while music played in his mind. Elena made dinner and watched him with a smile on her face. This was their life, simple but full of love. Poor in money but rich in everything that truly mattered. Marcus went to bed that night thinking about the audition. He thought about the City Academy of Music and all the opportunities that might come if he was accepted. He thought about Dr. Williams and Mr. Chen and all the people who had helped him. He thought about Victoria Worthington and her cruel challenge that had started everything, but mostly he thought about the music. The way it felt to play, to express emotions through sound, to create beauty with his hands and his heart. That was what mattered most. Not the schools or the scholarships or the important people, just the music itself, pure and beautiful and true. Marcus fell asleep with a smile on his face, dreaming of pianos and concerts and audiences. But in his dream, the only person in the audience that mattered was his mother, sitting in the front row with tears of joy on her face and pride in her eyes. Everything else was just decoration. The love between them was what made everything possible, what made everything worthwhile. Tomorrow would come with its challenges and its work. But tonight was for rest and gratitude and hope. Tonight was for believing that the impossible could become possible, that dreams could come true. that a boy from a small apartment could make beautiful music that touched people's hearts. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. The audition for the City Academy of Music came faster than Marcus expected. Dr. Williams worked with him every day, preparing him not just musically, but mentally. She taught him how to walk onto a stage with confidence, how to handle his nerves, how to recover gracefully if he made a mistake. "Remember, Marcus," she said during one of their final practice sessions, "they are not just judging your playing. They are judging whether you have the dedication and maturity to succeed at a rigorous academy. Show them the real you. Show them." The boy who practiced on a paper keyboard because he loved music so much he could not stay away from it. The day of the audition arrived. Marcus wore a new suit that Margaret had bought for him. Elena had taken the job at Margaret's restaurant, and the pay was indeed much better than house cleaning. For the first time in years, they had a little extra money. Not much, but enough to breathe easier. The City Academy of Music was located in an old building downtown. It had marble floors and high ceilings, and portraits of famous musicians lined the walls. Marcus felt small walking through those halls, but Dr. Williams walked beside him, her presence giving him courage. In the audition room, 5 people sat behind a long table. Mr. Thompson was there, along with the academy director and 3 other faculty members. A beautiful grand piano sat in the center of the room, waiting. "Marcus Martinez?" the director asked, looking at her papers. "Yes, ma'am. It says here that you have been playing piano for 14 months. Is that correct?" "Yes, ma'am. 14 months. The committee members exchanged glances. They had probably never auditioned someone with so little experience before. One of them asked, "What made you decide to learn piano so late? Most serious students start much younger." Marcus thought about how to answer. He could tell them the simple version, that he just decided one day to learn. But Dr. Williams had told him to be honest, to let them see the real him. "I saw a beautiful piano in a mansion where my mother worked," Marcus said. "The woman who owned it challenged me to play it. She said if I could really play, she would adopt me and give me a better life. She was making fun of me because I was poor and she thought people like me could not learn beautiful things. At first I wanted to prove her wrong. But then I discovered that I love music for itself, not just to prove a point." The room was very quiet. The committee members looked at each other with surprised expressions. "That is quite a story," the director said softly. "And now? Why do you want to attend this academy?" "Because I want to be the best pianist I can be," Marcus answered. "I want to learn from master teachers. I want to study with other talented students. I want to understand music deeply, not just play notes. Music has become part of who I am, and I want to develop that part as much as I can." "All right, Marcus, play for us." Marcus walked to the piano. He sat down, adjusted the bench, and took a deep breath. Then he began to play. He had prepared 3 pieces for the audition: a Bach prelude to show his technical control, a Beethoven sonata movement to show his power and intensity, and the Chopin nocturne to show his emotional depth. He played all 3 pieces without stopping, moving seamlessly from one to the next. As he played, he forgot about the committee members watching. He forgot about the audition and the scholarship. He just played, letting the music flow through him the way it always did when he was truly lost in it. When he finished, he stood and bowed slightly. The committee members were writing notes. They whispered to each other. Marcus could not tell if it was good or bad. "Thank you, Marcus," the director said. "We will notify you of our decision within 2 weeks." That was all. Marcus left the room not knowing if he had done enough. Dr. Williams told him he had played beautifully, but the waiting was hard. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Marcus went back to his routine: school during the day, practicing with Mr. Chen during lunch, lessons with Dr. Williams on Saturdays. Elena worked at the restaurant and came home each evening with stories about the customers and the other workers. Life went on, but Marcus thought about the audition constantly. Finally, 11 days after the audition, a letter arrived. It was in a cream-colored envelope with the City Academy of Music logo in the corner. Elena and Marcus stared at it on the kitchen table as if it might explode. Open it, mijo, Elena said. Whatever it says, we will handle it together. Marcus opened the envelope with shaking hands. He pulled out the letter and read it once, twice, 3 times to make sure he understood the words correctly. I got in, he whispered. Mama, I got in. Full scholarship, they accepted me. Elena grabbed the letter and read it herself. Then she pulled Marcus into a tight hug, and they both cried tears of joy. In their small kitchen with its old furniture and worn floor, they held each other and celebrated this enormous miracle. The City Academy of Music changed Marcus's life. The classes were challenging. He studied music theory, music history, piano technique, and performance practice. He learned from teachers who had played in concert halls all over the world. He practiced in soundproof rooms with excellent pianos. He attended concerts and master classes with visiting artists, but more than that, he found a community. The other students at the academy were serious about music just like him. They became his friends. They practiced together, performed for each other, and pushed each other to improve. For the first time, Marcus did not feel like an outsider. He belonged. The years passed quickly. Marcus turned 15, then 16, then 17. He grew taller, his shoulders broadened, and his voice deepened. He was becoming a young man. He competed in competitions and won awards. He performed in recitals and concerts. His name began to be known in local music circles as a rising talent. Dr. Williams remained his private teacher through all of it, refusing to accept payment. You are like a son to me, she told him once. Teaching you is my joy and my privilege. Elena thrived in her new job at the restaurant. She was promoted to manager after 2 years. They moved out of their tiny apartment into a bigger place with 2 real bedrooms. They could afford better food, better clothes, and occasionally a small treat like going to a movie. Life was not luxurious, but it was comfortable. Marcus never forgot where he came from. He kept his paper keyboard in a frame on his bedroom wall, a reminder of how far he had come. He visited Mr. Chen regularly to thank him for everything. He volunteered to teach piano to younger students who could not afford lessons, remembering how much free teaching had meant to his own journey. When Marcus was 17, in his final year at the academy, something extraordinary happened. Dr. Williams entered him in one of the most prestigious young pianist competitions in the country. It was held in New York City, and winners often went on to major professional careers. Hundreds of young pianists from around the world applied, but only 20 were invited to compete. Marcus was one of the 20. The competition took place over 3 days. Each day, competitors were eliminated, until only 3 remained for the final round. Marcus advanced past the first round, then the second. Suddenly, he was in the final round with just 2 other pianists, both several years older than him, and with much more experience. The final round took place in Carnegie Hall, one of the most famous concert halls in the world. Marcus stood backstage in his suit, looking out at the massive hall filled with over 2,000 people. His mother was out there somewhere in the audience. Dr. Williams, too. Mr. Chen had traveled from their hometown to watch. Even Mr. Thompson and some of the people from the academy had come. Marcus was the last of the 3 finalists to perform. He would play a complete piano concerto with a symphony orchestra. He had chosen a concerto by Beethoven, one of the most challenging in the repertoire. He had practiced it for months until every note was burned into his memory and his fingers. The first 2 finalists performed brilliantly. The audience gave them standing ovations. Marcus watched from backstage and felt his nerves growing. Could he really compete with that level of playing? These were pianists who had been training since they were small children, who had played in concert halls around the world. He was just a boy from a small apartment who had started on a paper keyboard 5 years ago. Then he heard Dr. Williams's voice in his memory. You have something special, Marcus. You have a gift. Trust it. Trust yourself. His name was announced. The audience applauded. Marcus walked onto the stage of Carnegie Hall, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The massive hall stretched out before him, tier after tier of seats rising up into the dim heights. The orchestra sat ready, the conductor waiting with a smile. Marcus sat at the piano. It was a Steinway concert grand, similar to the one in Victoria Worthington's music room, but bigger, more powerful. He placed his hands on the keys and took a breath. Then he nodded to the conductor and the orchestra began. The opening bars were played by the orchestra alone. Then came Marcus's entrance. His hands came down on the keys and the piano sang out, strong and clear and sure. From the first note, Marcus knew it was going to be all right. Better than all right, it was going to be special. He played like he had never played before. Every phrase was shaped with perfect care. Every note had meaning. The technical passages were clean and precise. The slow sections were heartbreakingly beautiful. And through it all, Marcus poured his soul into the music. The audience exploded with applause again. Marcus stood stunned for a moment, unable to believe it was real. Then the other finalists were hugging him, congratulating him. The conductor shook his hand. The judge presented him with a trophy and a check for the prize money. But more importantly, the judge announced that Marcus would perform as a soloist with the National Symphony Orchestra next season. It was the kind of opportunity that launched professional careers. After the ceremony, Marcus was surrounded by people. Reporters wanted to interview him. Music teachers from prestigious universities wanted to talk about his future training. Concert organizers wanted to discuss possible performances. It was overwhelming and exciting and terrifying all at once, but Marcus pushed through the crowd looking for the one person who mattered most. He found Elena waiting near the stage door. She opened her arms and he went to her, this 17-year-old young man who still needed his mother's hug more than anything else in the world. "I am so proud of you, mijo," Elena whispered in his ear, so proud I could burst. "You did it. You really did it." "We did it, Mama," Marcus said. "I could never have done any of this without you. You believed in me when no one else did. You sacrificed for me. You loved me. This is your victory too." Dr. Williams joined them, her face wet with tears. "Marcus, that was the most beautiful performance I have ever heard you give. You played with your whole heart. That is what music is supposed to be." Mr. Chen was there too, shaking Marcus's hand over and over. "I always knew you were special, Marcus. From that very first day when you asked me to teach you, I saw something in your eyes, determination and passion. You have proven everything I believed about you." The celebration continued late into the evening. But finally, Marcus and Elena found themselves alone in their hotel room. It was a nice hotel, paid for by the competition organizers, very different from their small apartment at home. They sat together on the couch, tired but happy. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "I do not know," Marcus admitted. "Dr. Williams thinks I should apply to university programs for piano performance. Maybe even some in Europe. There are a lot of possibilities now. Whatever you choose, I will support you," Elena said. "You have earned every opportunity that comes your way." Marcus looked at his mother. She had aged in the 5 years since he started playing piano. There were more lines on her face, more gray in her hair, but she was happy. Genuinely happy. The worry that used to live in her eyes had faded. They were not rich, but they were comfortable, and they had each other. "Mama, I need to tell you something. I have been thinking about it for a while." Marcus took a deep breath. "If I do become a professional pianist, if I do make money from performing, the first thing I want to do is buy you a house. A real house with a garden and a porch. You have worked so hard your whole life, taking care of me, sacrificing for me. I want to take care of you too." Elena's eyes filled with tears again. "Mijo, you do not owe me anything. Everything I did because I love you." "I know," Marcus said. "That is exactly why I want to do this. Because I love you too." They hugged each other close, and outside the hotel window, the lights of New York City sparkled like stars fallen to earth. 3 days after the competition, something unexpected happened. Marcus received a request for a meeting at a law office in Manhattan. A lawyer explained that an anonymous donor wanted to establish a music scholarship fund in Marcus's name. The fund would provide free piano lessons and instrument access to children from low-income families. Children just like Marcus had been. The donor was very specific, the lawyer explained. They want to help children who might not otherwise have access to music education. They believe that talent exists everywhere, but opportunity does not. They want to change that. "Who is the donor?" Marcus asked. They wished to remain anonymous, but they did leave you this note. The lawyer handed Marcus an envelope. Inside was a short handwritten letter on expensive paper. Marcus read it and felt his breath catch. The handwriting was elegant and feminine. The note said, "Dear Marcus, you taught me an important lesson. Talent and worth are not determined by wealth or social class. I was wrong to judge you the way I did. I cannot undo the past, but perhaps I can help create a better future for other children like you. This scholarship fund is my apology and my attempt to do better. Use it to give other children the chances you had to fight so hard for. I know you will use it wisely." VW. Marcus showed the letter to his mother. They both understood who VW was. Victoria Worthington had finally found a way to make amends for her cruelty 5 years earlier, not with empty words or excuses, but with meaningful action that would help others. "Will you accept it?" Elena asked. Marcus thought about it. Part of him wanted to refuse, to tell Victoria Worthington that he did not need or want her money. But then he thought about other children like him. Children who loved music but had no access to pianos or teachers. Children who might give up on their dreams because the obstacles seemed too big. The scholarship fund could help them. It could give them chances they would not otherwise have. "Yes," Marcus said, "I will accept it. And I will make sure it really helps children who need it. This is not about Victoria Worthington's redemption. This is about giving other kids the opportunities that music can bring." The Marcus Martinez Music Scholarship Fund was established that summer. With Victoria's donation and additional fundraising, it grew large enough to help dozens of children each year. Marcus became involved in selecting scholarship recipients and helping design the program. He wanted to make sure it really reached the children who needed it most, not just the ones whose parents knew how to navigate the system. The years that followed were full and busy. Marcus attended a prestigious university on a full scholarship, studying piano performance. He gave concerts in cities across the country. He recorded his first album at age 20. Critics praised his technical brilliance but also his emotional depth. The way his playing seemed to speak directly to listeners' hearts. Through all of it, Marcus never forgot where he came from. He kept his paper keyboard, now framed and hanging in his dressing room wherever he performed. Before every concert, he looked at it and remembered the boy he had been, practicing silently at a kitchen table while his mother cooked dinner. That boy had dreamed of making music. That boy had worked harder than anyone thought possible. That boy had refused to believe that his circumstances defined his potential. Elena eventually did get her house, a modest but lovely home with a small garden where she grew vegetables and flowers. She retired from the restaurant, though she visited often to see her old friends. She attended every one of Marcus's concerts, sitting in the front row with tears of pride on her face, just like she always had. 10 years after that day at the Worthington Mansion, Marcus was invited to perform at a gala fundraiser for a children's hospital. It was being held at a private home, a mansion on the same hill where the Worthington house stood. When Marcus arrived, he discovered that the gala was being held at the Worthington Mansion itself. He had not seen Victoria Worthington in 10 years. He wondered if she would be there, how he would feel if he saw her. So much had changed since that day when he was 12 years old and she had made her cruel challenge. The mansion looked the same. The fountain still ran in the circular driveway. The grass was still perfectly green. But Marcus was different. He was 22 now, a professional pianist with a growing reputation. He was confident and poised. He belonged in places like this not because of wealth or social status, but because of his talent and his character. The music room had been set up for his performance. The same Steinway grand piano sat in the center of the room, exactly where it had been a decade earlier. Marcus touched it gently, remembering the first time he had seen it, how impossible it had seemed that someone like him could ever really play it. The room filled with guests, wealthy donors who had paid thousands of dollars for tickets to this fundraiser. Marcus stood by the piano waiting to be introduced. Then he saw her. Victoria Worthington entering the room with her husband. She looked older, her hair completely gray now, but still elegant and composed. Their eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither moved. Then Victoria walked over to him slowly. "Hello, Marcus," she said quietly. "It has been a long time." "Hello, Mrs. Worthington. Please, call me Victoria." Mrs. Worthington sounds so formal. "And after everything, well, I wanted to tell you in person how sorry I am for how I treated you all those years ago. I know I sent you that note when I established the scholarship fund, but I wanted you to hear me say the words out loud. I am deeply, truly sorry." Marcus looked at her. He could see the sincerity in her eyes. I forgave you a long time ago, Victoria. What you meant for cruelty became the spark that led me to discover music. I am grateful for how everything turned out. You are very gracious, Victoria said. More gracious than I deserve. Your scholarship fund has helped over 50 children so far. Did you know that? 50 children who now have access to music lessons and instruments. That is your legacy, Marcus. You took my attempt at redemption and turned it into something genuinely good. Music should be for everyone, Marcus said. That is what my first teacher,